All right, welcome back, everybody. We've got another edition of what I've just termed, I don't know, T0, T1 strategy guides. A lot of Guardians videos. I've done some other different type strategy things, but big reason for that, my microphone has pretty much crapped out, and it's not really been all that consistent. So if you happen to notice some issues on the recording here today, that's why. That being said, I've had a number of people reach out to me. I created a list a while ago that I had termed Mawneto. And the whole shtick of it was, you listen to all these Brotherhood players once the deception restriction kind of came about how, this is just real bad news for Magneto and all that other stuff. And I, started kind of brainstorming. The whole plan is like, well, I still think Magneto's a fantastic sixth threat. How can I make him work? And so, obviously, the first thing I got to think about is like, all right, I need Indom so he can't get pushed or thrown too crazy. All this other stuff. And I was like, what are some models that could help him out? There's, in the past, people have used Thanos with Magneto and a lot of other things. And they've used Lockjaw to great effect. But I went back into the well and went and kind of realized that one of my personal favorite models in this game, I thought, still had some legs under Magneto. I think they synergize extraordinarily well together, and that is actually my main man, Space Maw. If you've been around MCP for a bit and you've hung around and nerded out in the Discords with or around me, and there was a bit of a time last year where there's a bit of a campaign going on where I may have been trying really hard to meme and shitpost Space Maw into relevance because honestly he was pretty good. Then, due to the sins of Thanos, he became a restricted sixth threat. Didn't stop me from playing him for a while, but I did eventually in my main Guardians roster acquiesce, give up, and go over to Hulk to the dark side there. But all that being said, when I came up with this list, he was still restricted, and it still worked with Magneto, right? And I was finding some success with it on pretty much any secure shape, right? It was a little bit rough in dealing with some of the F shape or different extracts. And we'll go over that here in a second. But a good thing had occurred, and Maw is no longer in Thanos jail. He has been freed. And what that has done is it's essentially made Maw a sixth threat again. I played some games, and I've added, Deception back into this list and all that. And I've played some games with it, and I think it still has legs. But it has kind of fallen a bit to the wayside because we also had, an update of several models and fan favorites like Daredevil and Cyclops and all that stuff, and everybody's kind of playing that, and Cable, right? But this is still a thing, and I think it still has some tremendous legs. So, with that being said, I think we'll just kind of dive into it. This video is mostly going to be about how to construct a squad with this, and what you're kind of looking for on a turn zero, and the introduction to the theory of it. Okay, so really the biggest plan here is running Magneto and Maw together at pretty much all times and all costs. So that's going to give you a 12-point tax starting out. Now we've got those two characters established. So the next thing is establishing tactics cards. So unlike a lot of other lists, like this actually works really well, and it's a very high point core, and it's extraordinarily tall, but it works. And the reason why it works, and it can be kind of almost a brainless thought, is that for the most part, you're bringing 4 of the same tactics cards into every game, right? And then, your 5th card can be basically a tech piece. And there are different things you can do there, but gosh, another reason why I wanted to make this work is because Brotherhood has such a wealth of excellent characters and excellent tactics cards. They're just amazing. When you can take a look at this and be like, you know, I don't even really bring anything out of the ordinary except for this one, which we'll get into a little bit later. And this, pretty important for these guys. You know, it just, there's so much to choose from. Being able to have No More Mutants and Shush in the same game is just super powerful. Do you know who I am? Everybody knows the power of that card. But I gotta be honest with you, I think the best tactics card in the game, right here, Magnetic Refraction. And with this list being so tall, and this tactics card being so ungodly powerful, right, that I'm getting Refraction off because I've got priority. I'm getting it in there before my opponent can stop it. And Magneto and Maw, when they're playing in this list, they'll play together. And even if you're bypassing Maw, you're still now dealing with a... it's only 2 dice. You're paying 2 power to bypass him, right? But he's basically got a built-in automatic block with that cover. And so, with a 7 health character, when he has that character, or that 7 health, and he has that automatic block, he becomes a major pain to deal with. He just almost isn't worth attacking. So that works really well. Little bit more of a Maw discussion point, but there were a number of people that were using him to some really cool effect in Storm X-Men before he became restricted because of the cover mechanic and because of the let's just say some of the crazier things he can do with the Space Gem. And him being able to Space Gem himself, or more importantly to Space Gem Magneto, it can fix a lot of things. And with his power generation being what it is, it's already an option every turn. It's not free like Thanos, but it may as well be. And I think another thing about Maw and the Space Gem in particular is that it is the most powerful in the game gem. And it just works really well with him. So, all that being said, this is what we're trying to bring at every threat level. Now, to kind of continue past this with the Brotherhood discussion about why this actually works, is because, honestly, if you take a look at like the Brotherhood roster, you could make an argument that they're bringing one of the best characters at their threat level in the game at every threat level, right? Toad, you could argue, is one of the best 2 threats in the game. If you're not familiar with Toad, you should be. He's probably the ultimate specialist, besides maybe the anti-Toad, the Nebula, who I'm a huge fan of, because you get these 2 threats that can just be exceptionally good at one thing, and that's all you really need them for. And they become such a priority for your opponent because they're either A, killing their models like a Nebula, or B, scoring lots of points like Toad. I'd played a game the other day on Legacy Virus with Toad, where he had scored points, and basically we were picking stuff up, and I was just able to do Finders Keepers over the course of the next 2 rounds. Ran off into a corner and scored the Legacy Virus. Toad himself, in a game, accounted for like 14 VPs for me. And that's a 2 threat, so that's pretty stupidly good. He didn't even make an attack. And if you'll notice that a lot of the other lower threat models in here, they're more or less complementary pieces. I don't even need Toad to attack if I've got Maw and Magneto. Obviously, terrain really helps. Now, I actually popped this map up randomly, and so in looking at this, I can promise you that this is like a Magneto, a Magneto leadership, like this is heaven. There are 2 size 4s, right? We've got some size 3s here. We got size 2s sprinkled all about, another size 3, and another size 3 over here. These are all size 2. Or that's a size 1 there, and then another size 2, and then a size 2 back here. I don't think you'll ever run out of things to throw on a map like this. But with Maw and Magneto, you're darn sure going to be able to try. Magneto has the best terrain throw in the game, and the only reason that it is the best in the game is because he can do it more than once. Second best is Maw. And with Maw generating 4 power a turn, it's online every turn. Under Magneto, the extra power generation on this is filthy, okay? Everybody is going to be completely juiced to the gills on powers. So, in looking at this list, we're going to, get past all this stuff. I'm going to quit rambling for a bit. We're going to get into the actual point of the roster. So, again, we're starting off at 12. Our TTCs are basically already selected. Then we just choose a 5th tech. Now, depending on your crisis shape, you've got options here at 15. Mystique. This is perfectly good on something like Researcher or Gamma. She's a back point sitter. You can now bring in Deception on top of what Maw and Magneto are capable of doing on turn 1. Nasty. And the beautiful thing about Deception is that it slows people down from going to the middle of the board. Causes them to daisy chain forward, which only allows them to get a finite amount of models onto that center point. Which on these, crises is what we're trying to do. She actually works extremely well also on Sword, which is also at 15. Because she has a ton of power and is a long mover. You can run her around all day long flipping laser guns. Sword is not ideal, but Gamma and Researcher, oh boy. Now that the crisis changes not crisis changes, but now that we've had some character changes come in, to talk about another model that is not around us right now, Malekith has been nerfed. You're not going to see a lot of him. I think Magneto is back on the menu. I think 15 is back on the menu for a lot of teams. And I got to be honest with you, I think Magneto is now the king of Gamma again. If you bring the right things that are meant to keep him in the fight. Right? This, and this, cards. Or to set him up for success, like a Deception, all this other stuff. Right? So Mystique can be great there, okay, at 15. This is also another great backline model. I think can be used effectively on demons, but that's not a 15 threat crisis. But he can be used in stuff like that. Quicksilver under Magneto, big time pain model. Reason being, and it's the same thing with Pyro, but you're giving all these characters all this tons of extra power. In the case of Quicksilver, he becomes just extraordinarily hard to kill because he's got cover and he's got rerolls. He's going to be very difficult for opponents to deal with. He's going to have power to speedster around the board. It makes pay-to-flips a very viable thing when you've got a character that can do 3 long moves in a turn and roll several pay-to-flip points, right? So, great option there. Once you get up to the 16 threat, you'll see that we've got a different variety of characters between Rogue and Colossus. Now, I know a lot of people like Apex, and I feel that kind of needs to be explained. Apex is great. He works great under Magneto. I think Rogue works better than Apex. I think Rogue is the #1 choice for most crises for a Magneto team because she can do some pretty horrifying things when she has power. And in Magneto, she's going to gain power. She also has a terrain throw, which Magneto loves because that's just juicing up everybody. But more importantly, her charge. It gives her the action economy and speed to help us get around the board and really be doing the things that we want to do. So, in my opinion, it can give you some play on a D shape, which is one of the things that can come up here at 16. So, she definitely has some game. Colossus at 16, excellent nowadays. He is a little bit harder to displace. Him having a bodyguard, or I should say a taunt-style bodyguard now, not a bad thing. Because you can run him up and put him in people's face in the center of the board. If somebody's trying to attack Maw from like a range 3 or something like that in a Colossus round, they pay to bypass Maw's defense. Colossus bodyguards it. They have now paid 2 power to attack Colossus with a physical attack. This guy is pretty good at dealing with physicals, right? Odds are, that is not something that you would ever want to do in this game. I'll pay 2 power and I'll attack Colossus with physical. No. They're not going to get any power back. They're probably going to generate maybe a damage, and it's just going to be a net loss for them. They won't be able to bypass Maw again. Colossus will have cover, right? So on these really condensed, smashing crises, I think Colossus can be just fantastic. Believe it or not, I kind of got to thinking, I probably should have been, I used to be taking Apex over Colossus. But in this list, with the particular way that it works, having the ability to keep Colossus around, or somebody throws him short, or they advance him short, well, you just take the Space Gem and you put him back. You know, that basically cancels out a short push, or excuse me, it can't be push, but a short throw, or a short advance, right? So you can cancel that out. Him being able to be around and just being a nuisance, and again, the power generation. He's going to have plenty of power under this list that is going to be destroying terrain constantly. So moving on from the 4 threats, and again, like the list building on this can be extraordinarily simple, really fun. 17's when you're going to start to see the first real chances at having some variety. Juggernaut in this list, I think you can basically take him on any crisis. There's not really anything he's bad at. He's extremely fast. He's going to have tons of power to do whatever he wants. He's always going to have his nice punch ability online to be able to reduce damage coming into him. Do you know who I am? Fantastic card. If you have a problem model, you just throw him long away. A lot of those problem models, like maybe an enemy Magneto or a Venom or somebody like that, right? They don't like being thrown long. I don't think anybody does, right? It's just a heinous thing. The other one that's really fun here is Scarlet Witch. She is the best pure range damage dealer in the game. That is above 5 threat or above. She just, in my opinion, I think she does more damage than Cosmic Ghost Rider, all things being equal, because she has a terrain throw that just outpaces somebody like a Cosmic Ghost Rider. It's the same reason I think Maw outpaces him. And it's not a matter of me thinking it, it's a fact. A character like a Cosmic Ghost Rider, and the reason you're not going to see me putting him around on this list compared to Maw, is just there's only so much damage he can do. He can only daze 2 models. Somebody like Maw or Magneto could daze 2 or 3, right? Maw could do 4. It could do 5, potentially. Because you can do a double spender, throw models into each other, right? If they're size 2 or lower. If you happen to throw one of those models to do a damage into a piece of terrain, he gains an extra power. Now you're talking about Maw being able to spend 11 power in one turn because he got the extra power, and now he's throwing a piece of terrain at somebody. And, it's entirely possible. What I'm saying is to attack twice, throw somebody twice, throw a terrain. I mean, that could daze, like I said, any number of models. You're not seeing that out of a Cosmic Ghost Rider. He just doesn't have collision damage that he puts out. And collision damage, to be honest with you folks, it is the most consistent form of damage in the game. People are constantly underestimating it. Now, as I'm talking about collision damage, I think it's worth noting I don't have Brace in here. Well, there's a reason why. This list is meant to run Maw and Magneto as much as possible. Maw is basically immune to collision damage due to telekinetic deflection. Spend 2 power, no collision damage. Okay. Magneto is, I guess, vulnerable if you consider having 6 dice against a collision or for a dodge roll as a vulnerability. I do not. Now, with the other characters, this guy's going to be fine. This guy's fine. She's fine. Everybody else, yeah, right. We're going to struggle a bit, especially our pal Toad. But how much terrain is there really going to be left on the board by the time you start rolling with these monsters anyhow? Not that much, right? So, in my opinion, collision damage for us, not a problem. Collision damage for somebody else, huge problem, okay? So, moving on from the 2 5 threats here and getting back onto Witch. Apologize for the scatterbrainedness moment, but again, no more mutants. Fantastic card. Just being able to shut down an enemy superpower is just completely awesome. Especially if there's somebody like a Beta Ray Bill and they're trying to pick up your Magneto and throw him medium. You can just go ahead and cancel that out. You've also got Indomitable to cancel that out. You've also got Asteroid M to put Magneto back in place. They could attempt to throw him 5 times or 4 times in a game. So over the course of 4 rounds, Bill is going to struggle. He won't be able to displace Magneto if you don't allow it to happen. Well, I guess you could displace him, and then you just asteroid him back. So you just cancel it out. So it is possible to keep Magneto in the fight. Sometimes, if people just want to throw him short, if you haven't activated your Maw yet, the same theory that applies with Colossus, you use with your Maw, you move Magneto back in the fight using the Space Gem. But fantastic to run here on something like Gamma. I can run her on Demons. Being incinerated with these two honestly doesn't bother me that much because of the power of refraction. But I really like her on more condensed maps. She's not much of a brawling character, but you'd be very, very surprised at her defense. So the same way as a Cosmic Ghost Rider, she is counting skulls as successes. Well, she still could get beat up pretty quick, right? Well, not really. She's guaranteed to block 1 every single time under Magneto. You keep her in range of magnetic refraction. It is impossible for her unless somebody has a pierce. But it's so hard to do just damage to her if you're having small attack dice pools. You have to spike out on her pretty hard, because with cover, a hit every single side of a dice is a defensive success for her. Even a blank. Everything is a success for her on defense. The skulls, obviously, as well. So, something to consider there with her. Now, I mentioned that we're starting to see the beginning of some list flexibility here. You can start running and doing some different things with tech with your 3 threats. Now, it all revolves around Toad. Now, anybody that's played enough Brotherhood over the years can sit here and tell you there's never a bad time to bring Toad. Anybody that's ever really played a lot of competitive Crisis Protocol will tell you it's never a bad time to bring Toad. Fantastic character. Moving on to 18. From here on out, this is where you can start teching things pretty much any way you want. Now, you don't want to bring the 5 threats here, so it is a bit of a weird threat level for them. But, for the most part, I don't hate bringing Colossus and Toad. I don't hate bringing Rogue and Toad. I don't hate bringing 2 long-moving characters that can help me out on pay to flips, that can help me out on an extract game, that are just exceptional models at being survivable and essentially being nuisances. And I don't hate having Pyro around into the right matchups either. And then still having the ability to have somebody like a Quicksilver. And so if you're kind of noticing this, like, you can start to see that, like, you can actually keep up with people on scoring, because you don't need to rely on here and here for damage. Magneto and Maw are going to be taking out 2 to 3 characters a turn by themselves. Okay? It's just going to be a thing. There's just having the constructs popping up back out there to be able to throw into people. They are going to be taking models out. Just flat out going to be doing it. And, the consistency at which they're doing it, because it's all terrain and collision damage, is shocking. It's very effective. So, moving on to 19, right? You just end up with even more options. Which becomes a lot more viable. You can actually use her depending on the crisis, but if this is a D shape, right? You don't hate having Toad here on your back point, having Witch, harassing people from the center of the board. Blasting from range, and then you can run a Magneto in the center of the board, or you can run a Witch over on the side on a flank killing models, right? You just end up with a ton of options when you're able to have this. Now, there are certain threat levels where you don't want to be messing around on a D shape, and you're going to have to make a concession. We'll go over that in a second. 20, again, just a ton of options. You just tech for whatever it is that you need for the matchup, okay? And I promise you the options are there, all right? When do I, the other question is, when do you, if you've got priority, what are you going to want to be selecting? Okay. It depends on who I'm playing against, but believe it or not, I don't necessarily care very much about the secure crisis shape as you might think. Okay. And this is kind of a realization that I've been coming to recently that I think is a lot more important for people to kind of understand, especially if you're playing an attrition list or a brawling list that, you know, wants to be beating up on other models. I don't think shape on secures matters as much as extracts matter. A couple of reasons. So, shape on secures, that shape, that's the shape that it is. They're not moving, right? They can't be picked up. It's not moving around. It's not rotating around. Nothing's essentially changing. Where they're planted at the start of the game, and whatever shape they are, is the shape that they are staying, okay? With secures, you're going into the match, depending on what's come up with it, with the idea and having a plan in place for that secure already, right? Or at least you should. So if you've already got a plan in place on how to deal with the secure, then cool, you should be good, right? With extracts, they get picked up, they get moved around all over the place. Chasing them down, all this other stuff, is a lot harder than walking up onto a static point and standing there, right? And when you know that there's going to be another model standing there, like, you know, you'll have something to do when you get there. Sometimes with extract running, you just don't have that option, okay? So especially like with the high scoring extracts, right? Your cubes or your spider infected, or maybe even something like paranoia, right? That can be pretty high scoring as well. I'm not as worried about hammers. I'm not super concerned about senators because honestly, senators is pretty broken for Mystique. So you'll actually, I don't think any other lists are going to be wanting to run senators as long as Brotherhood still exists. And I think there is a bit of a like fifth renaissance for Brotherhood players. Mystique is back on the menu because just some things have opened up in the game, right? So I will actually take senators in my list. Somebody else plays senators into me, which is not something I would advise. I'm just playing Mystique, okay? But for the other, like scrolls, all this other stuff, scrolls is not ideal. Spider infected is not good. So if I win priority and I'm going up against one of those Web Warrior teams or Storm X-Men teams or a quality extract team, you like those guys, right? I'm choosing my extracts. I don't care if they make me play on superpowered scoundrels where they have cover. I can move them off of that. I don't care if they're getting the extra healing from riots because I'm getting it too. The difference is that I can kind of dictate where the fight goes on that. And if they can't run away from me and score, 5 points a turn, because the extract is scoring them 3 and they're getting 2 from, maybe a D shape that I'm not on or something, right? It can really, really speed the game up, even on something like Gamma. Not so, even intrusions, like it can still speed the game up quite a bit. So I'm a lot more inclined to be choosing my extracts. And the reason for that is because Deadly Legacy Virus, if done correctly, is just extraordinarily slow. It's 3 points a turn. You can put multiple onto one character, which if you're running Toad, like I kind of alluded to earlier, he's super good on this one. Because you could take Toad. If I'm getting 2 points a turn with Toad, with this list, I'll just go run Toad down into a corner. At a certain point of this game, especially if he's injured, if he has 2 of these things, he's going down in a corner. Now you can sit here and deal with Maw and Magneto for the rest of the game and see if you can survive that. Because honestly, you're going to be getting scoring parity under most circumstances, or at least close enough to it. You take something like Senators. I'm running Mystique. Being able to grab 4 Senators on turn 1 using Juggernaut, and then you plug in a Toad and somebody really annoying and hard to kill like Quicksilver. I mean, plus Mystique herself can be pretty annoying and hard to kill. They're just not a lot of teams are going to want to deal with that smoke, right? Research Station, that is obviously a big-time Magneto one. This actually, in my opinion, is a Maw specialist crisis. Because you know, there's a lot of other podcasters, and one of my favorite minds for the game, and favorite people in the community, actually. I don't know if he knows this, but Mr. DeLuca, Mike DeLuca over on Danger Room. He's always been on the record as saying he hates Research Station. You know, he used to hate the single extracts, and you know, I think he's told me, and probably said this on the pod a number of times, but Research Station is the closest thing left that is similar to a single extract, where people have to go up there and they have to stand there at the midline. Now, Maw, the reason why I initially found him last year, a little bit more history, is that he is extraordinarily strong against the midline game. Because it allows him to stand here, right? And we'll just actually pop this in for you guys. And he can double tap the midline. I'm not going to put a gem on him because we all know that's there, right? But I will show you guys this, and the reason why he is devastating on Research Station. And honestly, I think any time that you have an opportunity to pick your absolute best crisis, I think you should do it. And I think Magneto's absolute best crisis is Research Station, especially this list. Let's go ahead and do something like Riots. And I'll show you how this thing can work on a D shape even if you want it to, okay? But we're going to go over some things here with Maw. I do intend on doing a bit more of a guide on Maw himself here soon, which will be the spiritual successor to that article that I wrote last year. Called it the Great Defrosting, which was an allusion to Maw getting spaced. I got made fun of it, but some people call him Spaced Maw, which was pretty good fun. Well, anyhow, we've got our Maw out there on, you know, he starts out turn 1, but here's really the power of Researcher, okay? If they come up and they have to be on that point in order to score it, and the reason why it works so well with Magneto and the reason why it works so well with Mystique is that, one, you can't just run up here with any model if you've got Mystique back here with Deception. Otherwise, Magneto and Maw are just going to kill him. So they're eventually going to have to walk up there, and it's probably only going to be one model. So if that happens, if you still have Maw left, you just gem forward, and then his range 4 attack reaches everything on there, no matter what they do if they're on the point. If he hits a wild trigger, that model is moving forward. At that point, you can Deception them and just bring them all the way over here. And then with Boy Maw, you use your range 3, you take a look around, and you brick him in the face with the building. Whatever it is, right? Odds are most 3 threats and below are not surviving that. Now, you leave Mystique here on the back line. You can bring Magneto up forward. He can sit there. You're scoring the Research. You just bring it back towards you. You're scoring 3 points. Opponent's scoring 3 points if they're here, here, and here. Now, if they're here, here, and here, and you're just backing up onto here, as long as you don't put that thing anywhere near this, the Researcher, as you're backing it up, they can't outscore you. And if you've essentially hijacked a model and killed them, they can't outscore you. They're going to have to leave these points at some point and come into your Magneto Maw team that has cover and everything going for you. Absolutely nasty. So, another cool Maw thing, and the reason why I'm not ever particularly worried about D-shapes. Now, again, it depends on the crisis and threat level, right? But there are a few things that you can do. You can take a rogue, line her up here. It only takes you throwing 1 piece of terrain, which is guaranteed to happen. Rogue's now able to charge onto that point. Now, if you put a Magneto over here, you have now a ton of options that would kind of surprise some people. You know what, we'll just pop in a Magneto while we're at it. And it all comes from the power of the Space Gem, right? And if it's not obvious to you guys, the reason why I'm pulling up this D shape is because this would be the shape that a lot of people are concerned about if you're a Magneto team, right? So what you do is you go ahead and take him here. Now, if Maw doesn't get anything to reach, maybe you have this option. Maybe you just want to score points on turn one. You're running like a rogue thing. And you want to just try to shut down your opponent from scoring points. The beauty of Maw is that he can actually still operate independently, especially early in the game. You could double move up here, right, and be able to do that for yourself. Now, before you go and do all that, you probably want to make sure that you move Magneto and not screw up like I just did. But you can move Magneto. Now you take yourself a Magneto who gets to do his short placement there from the Space Gem. And, oh, looks like my measurement was slightly off. Yep, pretty close. But I could have moved him over a little bit more. Other really cool thing, and I would love if somebody would correct me on this, but I think I'm right, is that on turn 0 with Maw, you can only bring out one measurement tool, right? Which is the range 3. This is the only thing that's allowed on the board, to my knowledge, on turn 0. So, like, you can't bring out, like, the range 2 and measure, like, range 2 between other characters. But if you happen to have some sort of a special power, like, I don't know, an infinity gem, I guess I will put it out here anyhow, which just happens to be range 3, you can measure that. So what you can do is you can take your range 3 off of Maw, and you can put it on Magneto. And make sure that they're within range to be able to do all these shenanigans. Okay, so if we weren't making it before, obviously we should damn sure be able to make it now. Once we kind of stop hopping. Now, I don't know how many people would ever expect these sort of hijinks out of a Magneto player, but that's pretty freaking good for Magneto, right? I've got Rogue that was able to charge over here, or maybe she could. If somebody brings up, I guess, like a model here on turn 1, you can just gem over there. You can take Maw, and you can double move him up now and stand on that. Very few models in this game are going to be able to attack him and afford to get past his defense on turn 0, on turn 1. Meanwhile, Magneto is probably going to do some serious damage to whatever model's over here, and he's going to throw this, right? Or this. Probably throw this one back here. Oh, can't reach it. Probably shouldn't have gone that far. Again, you can measure that out, but yeah, I'll throw this. Right? Leave a construct back here somewhere along the way. Get ready to throw that. That'll give Rogue the power she needs. If you put her a little bit off-center in this spot, she can charge over, get to this, or this, and still have a charge online. Okay, so you're able to really, and I'll just show you that with a Rogue, for example, and the power of that charge. And you're getting off good offense on turn 1, and your opponent is not getting off good offense into you. And this is on a D shape, so you're giving up the back, which I guess is fine. In my opinion, I think it's absolutely fine. If you can score 3 points, like I was saying, totally worth it. Or if you can cancel out and score the middle, or if you can take Rogue, right? Go over here, charge onto the point. Hit somebody, mutant absorb them, take their power down, take this size 4, throw it at them, whatever you want to do, because that is an option, right? And if you score this with Maw and Rogue, because they've stopped to try to shoot at Maw from a distance or try to hit him, whatever it is. My point is that you could be scoring 2 points there, or you could take Rogue, charge over here, right? Same thing. You take her, wondering, right? These are the things you got to be kind of thinking about with this Magneto team. If I go to a max 1 range back, anytime you got or on a point, and you got a range 2, you can reach that, right? But this is more what I'm concerned about. Cool. Charge in. If I get lucky, get some power generated, I throw that. If that doesn't work, can I have the best of both worlds? No. maybe before I finish that move action, I figure out what that max range looks like. And I just go ahead and say, I'm just going to move to here, right? So next turn, right, both of those things are online for you. You don't even have to move. Either way, if, for example, this model survives and this model that Magneto went into survives and you've got a tie here, your opponent's scoring 1 point. Very doable. You're going to have priority going into most teams. You take Magneto, daze whatever model you got going over here, maybe KO him. Now there's no model over here. He's not in any danger. Sure, Maw's probably going to be in a bit of trouble, right? You could activate Maw first, pop off your magnetic refraction, and stand there. They're probably not dazing Magneto. You just have options. Now, if you finish off one side of this, or you get rid of one character, again, you can collapse all this down. Let's just say that, okay, if they've only got 4 models, or 5 models, you can collapse Rogan. She's going to have power to charge because Magneto's going to throw something, or Maw's going to throw something. Now she's on the center point. Now you've got 2 models here. A lot of teams are going to leave somebody back here on one of these points. You're going to abandon this model over there that could have been dazed or severely damaged. If they don't have a charge of their own or ability to stop this, right, you go here, charge in, get some power in. If Maw throws something, boom, you take Magneto, you asteroid M him, and now you're just sitting on this. And then at that point, you can start rotating stuff around. You got your big refraction bubble going. So what I'm pointing out is that you can absolutely play D-shapes with this team. Now, this just happens to be, you know, one character that can get around and do this stuff. Rogue is obviously got a charge. That's why we want her, though. Now, Juggernaut, I don't have to tell a lot of you guys, is going to get around and do whatever he wants anyhow. You can bring a Colossus on this. You can win the center of the board. You can send Colossus off to a flank like that and just go and slow down the opponent and then put Magneto and Maw up on the researcher. Right? There's tons of options, okay? Now, what we can't really have on a situation like this, or what we don't want, is we don't want to be playing on something like, you know, Deadly Meteors when somebody's got like an F-shape extract. They're just going to be running around all over the place. This is not necessarily the greatest chase list. And so I think you want to be avoiding your extracts. Now, fortunately, the prevailing tactic of a lot of players these days, people just want to take their secures. Because I don't think they want to be risking playing against, you know, Magneto on Gamma at 15 threat. Because, you know, if they've got priority, you're choosing the threat level, right? And I promise you, if I'm playing on Gamma, we're playing at 15. I think this is now, as far as Gamma is concerned, the best 15 threat list, which is here and then Mystique with Deception. For the reasons that I mentioned there earlier, right? So you can kind of start to see how this can kind of come together and the way that you can build these lists out, okay? Over the next... whenever I get back around to posting more videos on this stuff, you know, we'll be going over a little bit more of the tactics, but a lot of this today was really an introduction to show you how the list building works, to talk about some of the theory crafting behind it, and to show you that you can play, provided that you've got the right team for it, on D shapes or even B shapes, right? B shapes are a little bit easier in my opinion because if you have seen the working lanes video and all that other stuff, or if you've seen my video on Guardians on playing Infinity, typically what I like to do if I'm playing an aggressive team on something like Infinity, and I'll pop it up real quick. Realize I'm a little bit scatterbrained on these things. I don't rehearse anything. This is all completely flowing off the top of my head, so it is a stream of consciousness. If you find it to be idiotic dribble, it's because the stream of my consciousness is dribble full of idiocy. Alright, so I'll pop out this. Now, this is a 17 threat crisis. If for some reason we're playing on 17 threat, I am ecstatic about that. If for some reason I'm playing on Researcher, even better. Because I'm going to bully the center of the board, and I'm going to take somebody like a Scarlet Witch, and I'm just going to sit him on the front side of this and just blast to hell anything across from me. Now, if for some reason they've got like a really good charging list, and I think Scarlet Witch might get a little bit overwhelmed with Moran because she is not likely going to have refraction over there, then I'll just sit a Juggernaut there. Their only point is to delay. Now, if this is not research and we're playing on like a fair extract, right? Let's say it's my extract and we're doing Legacy Virus, okay? All you need to do is make sure that you get one of the extracts, okay? If you're playing at 17 threat, which I would actually, believe it or not, recommend with this Magneto list, on something like your Legacy Virus, you're probably going to want a Juggernaut, okay? And I will show you why. Alright. Add in the tray. I will teach, hopefully, somebody how to juggy. Alright, so Juggernaut. Now, everybody loves him under Mystique. Everybody loves him under Magneto. If you like scoring points, you like Juggernaut. Deadly Legacy. There it is. He's probably the best character in the game at it. Bill is obviously amazing. He's not quite as good on extracts as our friend Juggernaut. But, that's fine. Now, okay. So, what I would probably do here from a deployment standpoint is something like this, okay? I want to make sure that my opponent, if they come and deploy out, you're probably going to see which side they're going to be doing their safe extract from, okay? I'm not necessarily concerned about that. I'm just going to put Juggernaut on whatever side that the safe extract grab doesn't exist, right? So if they come out with a Bill or their safe extract person, I'm putting Juggernaut on the opposite side, because that signals to me that when they brought their safe extract, whether it's an Eyes play with Bill or something like that, that they're going to grab this and they're going to back up. If they do it here in the middle, on something like Infinity, I wouldn't recommend it, because if you do it in the middle, that's just going to allow me to potentially get my hands on this and this, right? Because now I can just do my thing with Maw and say, unless you have two safe extract grabs, you cannot get on this point without me double tapping you and potentially feeding you to Magneto, or me single tapping you and then moving Magneto forward so that he can automatically pull you in off of that point using his reverse polarity, and then he'll hit you again, and then he's going to throw several pieces of turn at you and you are going to die. Okay, so you typically would not want to have your safe extract grab be in the center on this. So my priority, whatever side their safe extract isn't, is what I'm going to put Juggernaut at on deployment. Okay, does that make sense? And then Juggernaut's going to come up and grab this immediately. So, my first priority is, if I don't get like an opportunity to hit something with Maw, what I'm likely going to do is I'm just going to take Magneto on my turn one. You can move him forward, or if you have time, you can come up and, if you don't have time, run up and grab this here with Juggernaut. It's fine. Just do your thing. Ideally, if you can run into something along the way, like I'm going to here, try to do this in a way to where I can hit that signpost and get the extract. Okay, so Juggernaut gains his 2 extra power. That's just what he does. So that's going to give him the ability to do nothing stops the Juggernaut, right? So he gets to go smashing up here. If I did this right, goes right through that and generates himself a power, right? So that allows him to grab this. And then, because he still has an action left, this is what we're really wanting to accomplish. Bingo bango. 2-point Juggernaut, right? Now, if he's over there and he has the ability and it doesn't look like anybody's going to contest him, well, then you grab it and they're just going to leave him alone, then you put him here. But you don't need to do it immediately, right? That's when you can set up your turn 1 play here. And you can put Magneto forward. Now you've got Magneto covering this point, right? Now, again, odds are the safe extract is going to be over here. That's fine. What we're really trying to accomplish with this is we want to get Magneto as far forward as possible. We're setting up for turn 2. If they don't bring their safe extract grab here, obviously just try to kill him with Maw. Hope for a while, bring him into Magneto. But this is all really about turn 2. And it's also about trying to deny them a potential point. Now, if you listen to me talk about Infinity or some of these B shapes, right? There are 2 things you want to be looking for on B shapes. Is you want range 4 attacks or models with a charge. Get that whole thing covered. So that's all Maw's activation is going to be. He's spending 2 power. He might not do shit. That's fine. Magneto, on the other hand, he's not even going to be on the point. He's just coming forward. And the reason that you're doing that is because you can now hit and attack anything on this point and move them off it with reverse polarity. So you're taking a model off there. If there's only one there, you're taking them off it and they're not scoring. Then you're going to throw this at them and you're going to get all your refraction bonuses and all that other crap. And you're going to have a good time. Now, if you have overloaded this side of the board right here with total of 12 threat, the only thing your Juggernaut needs to do is just not die. Okay? You're scoring 1 point here. You could probably get this extract off of somebody if they don't bring their safe extract there. If it's possible that this one is still there. There are different things you can do with Juggernaut that would have actually made it possible to grab 2 extracts. But we would have had to get some power generated there. I anticipate they're probably going to be taking this side one with the safe extract. They'll probably have to take a model up and grab this. You can let them have it. Because scoring 3 points and an opponent scoring potentially, if they don't bring somebody over here, 3 of their own, well, that's a win for an attrition team. Especially if you pull somebody off at this point, but you're going to have priority next round. If that extract holder didn't get far enough away, if they're like Bill or something like that, they're getting back here. But they're not getting away from Magneto. You're going to daze them more than likely the next round, and you're getting that extract off of them. Now you've got the points lead. And even if this map is completely split up, right? And if they don't want to sit here and contest with you or contend with you, that's fine. You'll have your 2 extracts. You take Maw. You gem Magneto over. You score your 4 points to your opponent's 3 maximum. If they abandon this side, right? If they just try to rotate over towards Juggernaut. You take your Juggernaut. You just run out of there. You don't got to play their game. Let them come over here and bully poor Juggernaut. Maybe you run over something along the way. We'll smash through that and smash through that, right? You generate more power. Fuck it, right? Do our Juggernaut thing. Hey, look at that. Now you just sit here. Also, if you can get an extract on a Maw in these situations and circumstances, that's ideal. Because if it comes time later to pivot, you just take Magneto, you asteroid M him over here. Now you got your overload. You leave Maw on this side in case they try to pivot back. They're screwed. So you can play B shapes of this list. Again, you have to have certain threat levels. You want to have certain characters. Like what you're looking for on a B shape, again, is like range 4 Scarlet Witch, a charge, rogue. You're looking for survival models that you can throw off onto a side. If you're playing on 15 threat, I'll chuck what's his name? Quicksilver over here. Just somebody that's super hard to deal with. He's just going to exist forever. A 15 threat team is going to struggle. You're going to clear off this side of the board real fast if they have a 15 threat team and you got 12 threat over here. Leave the asteroid M up. Boom, bring it back. Anytime a model tries to come back to this side of the board, you score your points. If you're scoring more points than your opponent, they're screwed. because this list is meant to kill, not to score, right? So this is all the more reason why I think it's imperative that we don't get those really high scoring extracts, that we don't mess around with that other stuff. We don't want that high scoring stuff. We can manage this high scoring stuff. It's very manageable. The same theories on this applies to the F shapes, right? Except on an F shape, like Scoundrels, you have the benefit of the center of the board as well. And I think it gives you a lot more options as far as what you can do with your Magneto and how devastatingly powerful that refraction is. And so I keep talking about refraction. It's honestly the best card in the game. If I were to ask you if you want a tactics card that over the course of a game could deny an opponent the ability to do like 20 damage and gain 20 power. Like, because if they do 20 attacks and you have cover, like you have 5 models a game or 5 models around doing 2 attacks each, or 4 models around doing 2 attacks, I mean, that's 8 right there. Refraction is so freaking powerful that it can just completely destroy another team's power generation or just shut down their ability to damage you at all. It is stupidly good, right? So we've gone over the introduction to some of the list crafting here. I've shown you that you can play this on D and B shapes. Now, I've mentioned that there are some crisis threat levels that you can't necessarily play a D shape that well. And in my opinion, that happens at 16. So when you can't play a D shape well, it's because we don't necessarily want a 4 threat to be sitting around on a point doing nothing. It's not enough scoring, and it's not enough models out on the board to deal with extracts, in my opinion. You get a little bit too spread out. So in that case, if you're on 16, bring Mystique. This list is, I haven't theory crafted this or done this as a way to play Mystique. I know there's a lot of Brotherhood players that know Mystique is good, and she is good, and her leadership is good. And to be honest with you, it's an excellent leadership on D shapes. It's an excellent leadership on B shapes. It's an excellent leadership on F shapes. Because you can just leave that freedom token back there, and it just opens up your whole team, right? But it doesn't kill as well as Magneto. And it's not nearly as fun as Space Maw and Magneto. And Refraction is just ungodly powerful. But there's also nothing that says that you can't play Mystique and Magneto together and still have the best of both worlds. The thing that's really opened up for this list, and something that I haven't mentioned yet that is worth talking about, is that because Maw is no longer restricted, you shouldn't feel obligated to bring him into every matchup. This now can just be a Brotherhood list that can make Magneto freakishly effective and good, and you still have all the benefits of playing under Mystique. There's nothing that stops you from doing that. Heck, there's nothing that stops you from saying, you know what? I don't know if Maw is quite enough for me. I think I'd rather run a space reality Thanos with my Magneto, right? There used to be a really very powerful old list that existed in the pre-Thanos prison times. That was one of the most powerful lists at a particular threat level. I would argue it was just as powerful, maybe more so, than the previous Malekith Red Skull Mystique list, before the Deception restriction and before the Malekith nerfs, right? At 15 on something like Research Station, or not Research Station, but oh my god, Sword Base. Oh, yeah, cool. Thank you. Sword Base, right? Fantastic crisis for them. But the 19 threat team of Magneto, Juggernaut, and Space Reality Thanos is very, very good. Okay? So that's still an option there. I like the utility of Maw. I like the threat level. I like the fact that at 12 threat, this scales so well into like 99% of the crises. And that if you keep some of the kind of general rules in mind here, you keep your, you understand your matchups to a bit of when to bring your 5th tech card and which of your kind of 3 threats you need to use for a particular job or a purpose in your particular matchup. And it's not hard to figure out when you'd rather use Colossus over Rogue, in my opinion, right? It's not hard to see the difference between Juggernaut and Witch. So in a lot of ways, this can be a very effective and simple way to say, I know what I'm going to do. Can you stop it? The odds are most lists cannot from an attrition standpoint. You just have to know how to play it. And hopefully this has helped out a little bit. So I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you have or have not, let me know down in the comments. As always, feel free to reach out to me over on Discord. I'm just at the Barncat. I'll put my Discord handle down in there. You can find me in pretty much most all of the Discord forums related to Marvel Crisis Protocol. I'm pretty active over in the fan server, mostly on the Guardian side, but when I created this list and kind of shared it with a lot of Brotherhood people, they're the ones that really wanted me to kind of do something similar here. I will be going over with this, Mawneto, Mystique list about how to play each individual crisis a bit here. I'm going to be starting off with Research Station. We'll go into some potential matchups, and I'll show you some of the turn 1 plays, but really, and maybe discussing things a little bit more in detail on that. But as far as when it comes to an introduction of how this works, the theory and crafting behind it, what we're trying to avoid and what we're trying to accomplish. And then, can we maybe acknowledge some of the questions or maybe the perceived shortfalls, or, well, Mystique's awesome on D and B shapes, so I would just bring her. And it's like, well, you don't have to, right? And the real thing about it all is it comes down to extracts, right? This list, this Mawneto thing, right, it can play on any secure. I think if you're an aggressive or attrition player, you should probably start considering that a little bit more when it comes to your priority choices, right, if you have it. I think it's a lot more important to get something like, if you should have a plan for how you're going to play on every shape, but not everybody's got a plan for all their extracts. That's why a lot of people are going to go and choose their secures when they have the opportunity like 90% of the time. I'm telling you that this list, you want your extracts. Because Mystique is busted on Senators. That's horrible for your opponent. And Magneto might be the best Research Station team, or this Mawneto list, might be the best Research Station team in the game. And then Legacy Virus, it's just low scoring and neutral, right? But also extremely good for this list. So, as nice as it is to play on Gamma all the time, that's not happening. But if you have 3 very powerful crises on the extract side, I say go there, right? But yeah, that is it. So, like I said, if you enjoyed this, if you didn't, let me know. Hopefully you can do a little bit more on the visual side of stuff rather than just kind of looking here at the list itself. I'm going to end up pasting, and I need to do a better job of this. I'm going to paste the import code for TTS with these guys. These are all fantastic models to own, by the way. So go out, make a purchase on this stuff. I would highly recommend taking a look at Space Maw. I'll be doing an individual video on him shortly. And highly recommend giving him a look. I think Hulk stands alone atop the crown at 6. I think Magneto, as long as he's used correctly, is extremely powerful. And I put Maw right up there with him. And then I think a lot of the other characters are below that. I don't know if that's a hot take, but it's a take. So if you guys ever catch me around, feel free to play that. I'll give you some Maw flavored goodness. But yep, I have now said that is the end several times. This is indeed the actual end. Take care, everybody. Cheers. Go Seminoles.